video clips I can use that portray the feeling of the video, and then just put, overdub that. So we'll see. It's an experiment. It's all just part of the idea of how to share information.
I like your reels.
Thank you.
So Barry and I are wondering how good you are at setting healthy boundaries. And do you even know what a healthy boundary is? Do you even know what a boundary is? It's not just for herding horses and cattle. It's for keeping your life running in a more smooth way, is our thoughts about it. So this is the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast internet singles #1 talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
I like the intro, but I'm still getting my groove about it.
Well, it's good starting. It works, but you're doing great with it, so I think it's going fine.
Thank you very much. I'm a words of appreciation gal.
Yep.
So one of the ways to tell, I think, that you might not have good boundaries in your life, period, and certainly in your dating relationships, is if you're frustrated a lot or mad at people a lot or feeling taken advantage of or doing a bunch of stuff you don't want to do and that you're not happy about and you feel taken advantage of, that means you don't either have any boundaries or not very good ones.
Yeah, the thing with boundaries are often, and we'll get into how and why and everything else in a moment. The thing with boundaries are they define a lot of times who we are. That's why they're called boundaries. It's like it's the perimeter of who we are. And when people don't respect that, they tread on them, they walk over, as you said, or they just don't even know they're there. You'll tend to get upset, triggered, reactive, all these different things because you maybe didn't realize you didn't have them in the first place. So we'll get into explaining about more in a second. But the thing I want to get clear about is if your relationships have given you that sort of feedback, listen up, because this may help.
I think you're going to get some really good help with this.
Yes.
So first, as in lots of our talks, it starts with you. What are the things that are very important to you in your life? How you want people to treat you, how you want people to be when they're with you, what kind of atmosphere works best for you. I mean, if you just think about introverts and extroverts, what they have a big opinion about the atmosphere that they're in and the kind of people that they want to spend time with. So if you get clear about the physical space, the people, the time of day, the kind of activities you like, how much downtime you need, how much excitement time do you need, how much activity do you need, how much rest do you need. I mean, that's a really good foundational place to stay to decide where you're going to need to put boundaries in your life so that you can ensure that you stay in the most comfortable. I tell people it's what keeps me upright. That's the word I use all the time. I do things that keep me upright. Emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Yeah.
Yeah, well, add to that is really a lot of times for me what boundaries are about is, in a way, it's almost like knowing who I am, because what it creates is this self-image and self-reflection that puts us in a place where I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, where we know how to be with other people. The challenge with when we don't have boundaries is we feel a bit flimsy, almost wishy-washy. We don't have that sort of structure. The thing is, the other extreme of that, though, of course, is where we keep everybody at arm's length. There's no connection whatsoever, which is kind of part of the conversation, which we'll get to. But the thing about boundaries is most people aren't aware they have them. And for good or for bad, how we live our lives and interact with other people is governed and dictated by how our boundaries serve us or don't serve us. So it's important to know what yours are, if they are set up in the right place, and then how to rebuild them if you don't have them.
Yes. And even you could just start out with your boundaries with yourself. Do you keep agreements with yourself?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to bed at this time, or I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to do this kind of an exercise during the day. I'm going to eat this way. I mean, just think about what is going to keep your life humming along in the best way possible. And then keep that boundary, that agreement with yourself. And you can renegotiate if, I don't have time for that today. What else could I do? Or I'll do it tomorrow. Because if you get good at setting it with yourself, you'll have some practice to setting it with other people for sure.
Absolutely. And in fact, I'll say another way, which basically is when you start keeping agreements with yourself, you start trusting yourself more. And that self-trust is a foundational piece of boundaries. And self-trust is also what helps you trust other people, because it's hard to trust somebody else unless you know the framework within which to trust. So when you start building self-trust by keeping agreements, setting up rules, and within that structure, do things that you can do. Don't sort of set up 17,000 goals you'll never be able to keep, because some of us, I was one of these, said yes to everything and overcommitted, which wasn't healthy. So one of the things about boundaries is, and this is the big one I want to put on the table right now, is it teaches you how to say no. Because for many of us, we don't like saying no to other people because we think we're rejecting them. And with boundaries, what you're doing is just not saying no to somebody else. You're actually saying yes to yourself. So as you say, I'm going to do these things, whether it is agreements of health, wellness, meditation, getting up on time, whatever those things are, it becomes a practice where you start going, oh, I trust what I say. I believe what I say about myself. These are all the keys that help you build up the foundational structures of what boundaries are about. And the other part of that as well, and this is something in a relationship especially, is if you're seeking approval from somebody else a lot of the times, that's a clue that you haven't got approval of yourself, which means the boundaries are not strong. It's like all these things we talk about in different parts of our conversations really do tie into the one thing, which is, how are your boundaries?
And that's such a good point. I'm going to emphasize that when you have learned this is what works for me, and I've kept the agreement with myself, you won't sound wishy-washy when you tell another person, this is what's important to me and I need this, because you really know. Because if you seem not so sure and looking for their approval too, that was such a good point. They think they get an opinion about it. They think you're asking them, maybe we could do something differently. And you need to be clear, are you open to something different, or this is really a line in the sand? And by practicing on yourself, you will learn where I need to get regular sleep. I need to eat regularly. I know this about me. If you want me to be I like being my best self, and I think you want me to not be crabby, and I'm not crabby if I do those things for myself. So I work that around when I'm doing things with other people. Oh gosh, if we're going to be at that time, I'm going to bring something to eat, or we're going to eat there, because I'll be crabby if I don't. Right. So that way there's no open to discussion, and I'm busy taking care of myself within the framework of hanging out with other people.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm going to keep saying how important boundaries are. It's self-identity in so many ways. And so having that willingness to say this works, this doesn't work to anybody, romantic relationship, family relationship, business relationship, it really starts what happens. And the thing about this, and it's something you have to do for yourself to discover this, is when you do state this structure for yourself and you create these boundaries for what works. And we will talk later on about how you can make them healthy boundaries, because that's the key of the title, not just any boundaries, but healthy ones, is when you do that, other people start to respect you. So if you've had challenge with people not respecting you, this is probably one of the reasons why. Because again, when you set agreements to yourself and you start trusting yourself, other people trust you as well. And so that trust becomes a two-way street, and then the respect gets growing out of that. And these are again, nuts and bolts ways of having healthy relationships with everybody, not just romantic partners. So this is foundational, but also often missed stuff.
And to add on to that, you will find the people that don't respect you and don't respect your boundaries. And you will learn very quickly when you say, this is what I need, and they say, yeah, I can't do that. Okay, now we know I need this. You can't do it. I guess we can't spend this part of our time together. Is there something else we could do, or is there nothing we can do together? Because one of the things that I have a big boundary about is I don't like practical jokes. To me, I really have learned I can be okay hearing about them, because the people that are doing it, as long as the other person thinks it's funny too, they get such a charge out of it. I'm okay listening, but don't do it to me. I have no sense of humor about it. I'm way too sensitive. My feelings get hurt. It's a bad mark against you if you do it, especially if I've told you. And it's been interesting. I've met a couple people lately who went, oh, I could talk you into it. I said, I've known myself for a really long time, and I've never liked it, and it doesn't work for me. And it's been interesting. One of them said, okay, and the other one wouldn't give up. I said, well, our conversation's over.
Yeah.
Really over that, I go, well, yeah, because if you're not going to be okay with this, that's a big thing to me, and I hear it's a big thing to you to do it, then there's going to be other things that are going to come up. It's just the way it is. And if I can't say, please don't, and you're going to say, but I like doing it, you need to find somebody who likes it too, because it's not me. So that's what really helps when you know yourself and you say it out loud and the other person goes, oh yeah, great. My husband was okay, got it. No practical jokes. It was great. But if somebody says, no, I need to do practical jokes, then you go, oh, okay, easy. Then why get down the road and have them do it and me be upset? That would be so silly.
Yeah. Because one of the things about boundaries that's so good is you start to discover what other people's boundaries are like.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, what comes forward is that, and this is one of the things, is that the trust you have, or I should say that way other people sorry, there's another way. You discover who you can trust yourself in your life. Because part of having boundaries is you start to really get a really sense of truth in yourself that you know is what's real and what's not. And when somebody else doesn't match that, you're sensitive to it. You notice it, so you become aware of it. And just switching gears for a second to the attachment styles, anxious attachment people rarely have healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the reasons why the attachment styles are so good to learn, because they'll give you some feedback on where you are, if you're anxious or avoidant or you're secure. And having that simple truth can help you navigate the path through to building healthy boundaries in all your relationships. And yes, it may require you, as you were saying, it may require you to shed certain relationships that just won't work for you. You know, I have a few of my own. One of mine is really about agreement keeping, because I learned this lesson 3-4 decades ago about the power of agreement keeping with ourselves first, but also with other people. Because the one thing I've learned, and this is something about boundaries again, is that when somebody agrees with something to me, makes a commitment to me or agreement to me, and they don't follow through with it, first of all, I feel let down. But I realize they let themselves down because they promised something they couldn't deliver. And that's for me in business especially, is a red flag. And so understanding how boundaries are so vital in every relationship, it really creates a way of moving through life in a healthy and self-supportive way, which I'm passionate about, of course, and so is Christine. So that's why we're talking about it today.
Yeah. So depending on how you were raised, because that's where our attachment styles are developed always,
Mm-hmm.
you might not have been taught having boundaries. Lots of parents don't give children choices. What my mom did is she gave us choices. All of them were fine with her within this framework. She had pretty broad boundaries for us, and we had lots of choices in between, but each of us had to test. And boy, you stepped on that outside boundary. She did exactly what she said she was going to do. There was never something that wasn't consistent, but we had lots of choices of how to deal with our lives within these boundaries. And so I learned even early about how to figure out what worked for me and didn't work for me. But lots of children don't have that. So many decisions are made for them and taken away from them and put in a way that doesn't really work for them. So this is for those people who haven't ever had a chance to go, really? I could set my own boundaries. I had no idea. So start practicing with just little things, like when you go to a restaurant, don't get just what everybody else is getting, and you could ask people what they're getting, but what do you really ask yourself? What am I in the mood to eat today? Do I want fish? Do I just want a banana split? And practice listening to what you would really like and doing it. And then you can go, well, that worked really well, or no, that didn't work well. I'll try another thing. But just to experiment in these tiny little ways before you go out trying to set a big boundary with another person. That was one of the things I did as well. And when I was growing up, to say, well, let me try all these things and see what I like and don't like. So you can do that as an adult, right?
Absolutely. It's funny that reminded me of something happened when I was probably mid-20s. And we go after a workshop or after an event, we go out to dinner afterwards, and usually like a late night Friday, not Saturday night. And there was one guy I remember in our group who would always get like an ice cream sundae or a milkshake, even though the rest of us were getting meals like sandwiches and salads and everything else. And I was envious of him because I felt like, you shouldn't be able to do that. So that thing just triggered in me. It's like, oh yeah, I realized he knew what he wanted and he was clear about it and he owned it. So it just cracked me up. So thank you for sharing that, reminding me of that story. It was just funny. I mean, looking back now, it's like, ultimately, I'm grateful I didn't do it, because frankly, I would have been sick if I'd kept doing those. But the freedom to do so was such a good choice. And I want to harp on this again, but the reminder that it's really about having a good relationship with yourself, and again, trusting yourself, like you were saying, like knowing what you want and asking yourself the questions. It can be simple things to do, and when you're doing boundaries, when you're creating boundaries and restoring boundaries and building boundaries, because it does start with a relationship with yourself. You can do it any time, doesn't require anybody else. In fact, that's the best time to do it with yourself, because as you start rebuilding trusting yourself by having agreements that you can do. And again, and I did a video on my YouTube channel somewhere, but basically the thing about agreements, I'm talking about how there's 4 things about agreements, is that when you make agreements in with other people, you're making an agreement with yourself at the same time as you are with them. So to practice, eliminate other people in this conversation, make agreements to yourself. And so first of all, when you make an agreement, keep it, which also means, number 2, make less agreements. Because the challenge is we sometimes overcommit. And if you don't with yourself, you start noticing more quickly where you may be on track and off track because you've made too many agreements. Like you double booked yourself on something, or you promise yourself you'd do something and you got the next day and said, I can't do it. So notice that and be aware of that. The third thing is, and this is more with other people, but you can do it with yourself too. When you start planning for things, it's okay to say no to it. Because you might say, well, I should work out every day. Well, not if it doesn't feel right. Maybe you should work out every other day. So make choices that are healthy, and that saying no is part of that. The other one as well, and I put this now, it's shifted from the old days, because this is going back, say, 40 years ago. You used to say, write it down. Well, now put it in your phone. That's where everybody keeps their calendars or schedules. Is make a note to yourself. Some of you will be reminded that you're going to do this. So if you're going to work out every day, put it in your calendar so you know what you're going to do. And the last one, which is optional, but it can happen as well, is you want to renegotiate. Because again, as I said, you might plan one day, I'm going to do this, and this the next day. And when you wake up, you go, it's not going to work. Renegotiate so you can change your schedule. The thing is, don't just ignore them and work through them, because that's what depletes your trust in yourself. But by renegotiating, you're making your trust and your agreements conscious. So there's a part of you that goes, oh, good, I'm taking my agreement seriously. And that's the part that needs to hear it, because that's where boundaries grow from.
Mm-hmm. I like all those. I hope everybody wrote them down. They're going to pause the video and write each of those things down. That's really helpful. Because one of the reasons that people have trouble with agreements is they think they're set in stone.
Yeah.
And it's really important to say, try it for a week or 2. Did it work? What didn't work? What worked great? What didn't work at all? What just needs some adjustment? Because that's really how life is. Just try something on, see if it works, what needs to be different. And then it could be that, okay, now I've got this great pattern. And then when this comes up, how do I flow with that? How do I still keep my agreement with myself and do this other thing as well? I was just on the phone with a client, and she's very social and does lots of things with lots of friends. And we've really worked out how because she didn't have good boundaries with them. And now she's figured out what place in her life each of these people could be. And now she's much happier with all of them. And there were 2 things that were going to happen at the same time. And she was trying to figure out if she could do both. And her commitment to the one really was going to take her the whole time. And she said, I felt so good about the conversations that we've had that I was able to tell the other people, I can't go. And this is why, because I'm keeping an agreement to myself and the person that I told I would come do this with. She said, and I felt really good about it. And extra, they were okay about it. They really understood. She says, but I was going to be okay if they didn't understand. And that was a big step, but I was very proud of her. I said, oh, we're going to talk about that today on our show.
So true. And yeah.
The thing too, when you do it, most people get pretty excited about it, because when you take care of yourself, there's really good hormones that get released. When you do something nice for yourself, when you stick up for yourself, when you do something that works for you better, we just feel better and we'll, well, maybe I should do that more because it felt pretty good.
Indeed. And I'm going to take a break in a second, so I want to say what I was going to say till after we come back. But
yeah,
just some thoughts when we go to the commercial break is, where is it in your life that you can set healthier boundaries, and where do you want to start growing more self-trust along the journey? And we'll talk more about that when we come back. So you want to set anything up for the break?
Yes. So if this has intrigued you and you would like to talk to me, the best way to reach me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of the page, and there's a What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. Please click on that. There's 10 brief questions about where you are now, where you think you'd like to be. Then you'll have access to my online calendar, and you can schedule a conversation complimentary with me. You can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com.
There you go.
And for Barry?
And for me, similarly, I have a website and I have where you can get in touch with me. So my site is barryselby.com. And if you're definitely having some challenges in this area or any area of relationship, particularly around boundaries and trust, though, on the top of the screen, there's actually three things. But the first thing on the top of the screen is a let's chat button, or so you have a conversation. Click on that and you get a my calendar. I also have a question there, and you can put in there some of the thoughts we talked about in today's show if you want to. And then you can then you can schedule a time with me. We have a 20-minute conversation, complimentary, where we get to talk about where you are and where you want to go and what may be in the way. And we can talk about what you really want to do next and how I can help you. You can also send me an email at barry@barryselby.com if you have any questions, thoughts, or separate things from getting on my calendar.
Perfect. So we're going to have a commercial break for this wonderful station that we're on, and then we'll be right back with more talking about setting healthy boundaries.
See you in a second.
And we're back with Let's Talk Dating. This is Christine and Barry talking about setting healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And the healthy boundaries in your life just makes life smoother, better, more manageable. And certainly we'll be talking about how to set boundaries in dating, because generally men and women do approach dating kind of differently. And it's really good if both people know what pace they'd like to go, what things they want to happen first or second or third or not at all. So from the woman's point of view, I need you to be really clear initially what it is that you're willing to talk about, what questions you want to ask, what conversations you're not willing to have. And if a man brings up something that you're not ready for, don't just write him off. Say, I prefer to have that conversation later on when we get to know each other better. And then wait, does he respect your boundary or not? If he says, oh, you're too sensitive, oh, how silly of you, bye-bye. If he says, okay, thanks, I'll keep that in mind, then you can talk to him more. And when you meet somebody in person, decide, because we like scanning and we like feeling your energy. So do you want to shake his hand? Do you want to hug him? Do you want to touch him during the time that you're sitting there having coffee or a meal or going for a walk? Decide what keeps you engaged. Decide what you'll need to know about him before you leave to see if you want to see him again. And then what do you want to do at the end of the date? Do you want to shake his hand again if you felt comfortable enough for a hug? Are you comfortable enough for a kiss? Decide what you're comfortable with. It has nothing to do with what he wants to do or not do. You get to set the boundaries about you and your body.
Yep.
I can't stress that.
And to underscore that, because what we said earlier about is that when you have healthy boundaries, you tend to gain respect. Mm-hmm. The thing is also, because in the dating scene in particular, sometimes people come in with an agenda. If you have healthy boundaries and the other person might feel rejected, they might judge you, they might be trying to persuade you to do things you don't want to do because they have an agenda as well. The key thing is, when you have healthy boundaries, what they choose to do is nothing to do with you, as you said, but also they are demonstrating to you they're not the one you want to be with anyway. So that's the key thing. And I'll speak to one thing on dating as well, because for men, I mean, it's just true for me, but I think it's true for other men too, because we like strategy and plan and sort of things being a certain way. Because we all have smartphones now, ladies, if you're running late, do him a favor and text him and let him know. Because one of the biggest challenges I find personally when I'm out on dates, and also what I hear from my clients as well, is there's a feeling where they don't feel that the person who respects them enough. Again, boundaries generate respect. If the other person is not willing to text you, let them know they're only 5-10 minutes late because they got stuck in traffic, which happens to a lot of people, you may not feel respected. And so the whole thing about dating is you can set up your boundaries from the get-go and make sure there's a respect. And now, let me qualify that. I know with some of the dating apps, I've told people before that you can communicate through the dating app because you don't want to give out your personal phone number until you've met the person until you know they're real. So understandably, but you can still communicate through the dating app because they are on your smartphone. Mm-hmm. So using your phone to communicate logistical things is very respectful of the other person. And for men, I think especially we need to know that because it helps us plan. And because we're not necessarily as flowing as the feminine is, having a strategy like that helps us a lot. So do us a favor and let us know if you're running late.
And I love that you said that, Barry, because don't we women want to feel respected by the man, that if he's running late, we would like him to let us know. So why wouldn't we let him know? I mean, really, it's not like you have to stop and go to a payphone anymore. You can text him from your car, especially if you're sitting in traffic. You can text him from your car. You can talk to your phone and tell him you're running late. And also, boy, if we haven't talked to for a while, Google Voice, download the app on your phone. It'll get you an anonymous phone number. You can communicate with somebody through your cell phone without giving out your cell phone number. You can talk and text effortlessly. It's a really good app to have, and it's free. So that's a way to communicate where you don't have to always go back to the app. You can just use Google Voice.
Yep. So lots of little tips there to keep safe, because again, part of this thing with boundaries, it's not just respect, it's also safety. So as we on the shows about how to use the dating apps and everything else too, these will contribute to having healthy boundaries. So if you haven't, by the way, if you haven't listened to other shows, we'll tell you in this episode how you can find all of those. But the key thing is to recognize that boundaries have power in all the things you do.
So one of my other personal boundaries, and a lot of my clients, my female clients, use this, is I meet them wherever we're going to meet at least 3 times to just see, do I still feel comfortable enough with them to invite them to pick me up at my house? I have a benefit that I live in a gated community, so they have to park outside. I need to walk outside to them. They don't actually see where I live till 5 times. I have 5 times that I invite them to my home. And it's a really good way to say, this is my preference, because they'll ask, would you like me to pick you up? No, I prefer to do that 3 times. I'm happy to have you pick me up the 3rd time. And then you wait to see, are they going to try to push that boundary? Are they going to get all offended about it? Or do they go, oh, what I've heard is you really do respect yourself, and I'm glad I do too. Or the men I coach go, and in my head I go, wow, I like that she respects herself. It makes me step up even more, because when you respect yourself, both the man and the woman, it shows other people how to treat you. You demonstrate, I need this kind of treatment, and I will give it back to you as well. Yeah. So figuring out, where's your comfort zone? Where do you like meeting people? How do you like meeting them there? I always park, in a parking lot lit with a light. Often I meet people when it's still light, but figure out what works for you to help you feel comfortable and safe, because you want to feel comfortable when you're meeting somebody. So if you've set these boundaries already about, this is what I need to feel comfortable, and they say, okay, I mean, at least you're moving forward in a good direction.
Absolutely. And again, all these things you're teaching and talking about can feel like you're putting pressure on, that you're going to have to make other people step up. That isn't a bad thing. So the thing I want to say underneath that as well is that, yes, you might feel like some people aren't going to like what you're offering and what you're saying. This is a selection process where you're choosing the quality of your dates and the people you meet. And for me, it's been the way I built my relationships of friendships over the years, is that some friends are no longer friends because they didn't respect what was agreed upon. I'm not saying I'm being stuck up or egotistical. So no, I'm setting up boundaries because I trust myself and care about myself enough not to say yes to the wrong things, not to put up with crap behavior from other people, which I used to do. So the lessons I've learned over the years have become part of the methodology I teach other people, because when we have healthy boundaries, what we attract improves as well. And that's one of the things about when you start taking your own self-respect and self-esteem and self-approval to a higher level, everything around you changes to match that as well.
And don't you learn what other people's boundaries are? Because I will even ask, so tell me the things that are really important to you as you move forward in a relationship. How do you like the pacing? And what do you think about sharing expenses when you go out to eat? I'm really curious, because lots of women, not me personally, but lots of women are concerned that if the man pays for their meal, he might want more than a thank you. I never assume they want more than a thank you, because I know they're not getting more than a thank you, certainly on a first meeting with me. I have very good boundaries about that. So ask, what are your plans? And because men do, you are so right. I love that you said that, because we women don't always know that, and we are a little more fluid. You have a plan. you think about it. You know ahead of time. You might change it after you've met us, good or bad. And you have kind of a pace that you like. Especially if this happens, then you want to do this. And if this happens, you want to do this. So it's good to find out, well, what do you normally do? And do you always have to stick to that? I mean, it's really kind of a fun conversation to find out. And I will tell you, kept thinking really early in my dating, after I got divorced, I dated this guy. He was so much fun. We did so many interesting things together. And I finally had to say, after about 6 months, gosh, do you ever get annoyed or irritated? What kind of stuff gets you irritated? And he goes, do you want to piss me off? I said, no, I don't want to piss you off. So I'd really like to learn, because his sister and I had become friends through our dating. And I said, I know where she stands on lots of things. It's been really clear. And I don't really know. And it continued to be that way. And there were a couple of other things, but I finally said, I just can't. And then he wrote me this terrible 7-page letter about all the things he was mad about me. And I went, oh, I guess I got my answer. But he kept telling me there was nothing. And I'm like, how's there nothing? Doesn't everybody have things that they don't like in the world? And I just wanted to know.
This is again back to boundaries again, because this is a great example, because what we oftentimes do is we hold resentments. We store them away somewhere in a little cupboard. Sound like that's what he did. He saved enough for the 7-page letter. So having healthy boundaries also means when something doesn't line up, you speak about it, not to upset the other person and not to feel superior, but to simply clean up the air. And the quicker you do that, the less baggage you're carrying around. Because the other part of this too is if you don't clean up what's going on, first of all, the other person may not know that they're doing something, quote, wrong. So they may continue down that path, which makes things worse for you. And you're getting more resentful, more upset, more frustrated, and more judgmental. And they don't know that they don't know what they're doing wrong. And finally, you blow up at them and they wonder what happened. And so if you've had a relationship like that, and I've been in a couple like that, where the other person didn't tell me up front what was going on, I had no clue because I wasn't very smart at the time. But even so, being willing to receive feedback and helpful, but also the fact is you want to give the other person the chance to clean up or change their perspective, so that way you don't build up resentment and upset. Because part of this boundary thing is you keep it clean all the time. It's like windshield wipers. You wash the screen all the time. You don't let it get so thick you can't clean them up. And so if you're taking all this upset and don't respond to it, the other person doesn't know what to do with that. And that's not respectful either to them. So this is a two-way street, and it works really well when you do keep your boundaries clean.
So I will call up myself and some women, because I don't do this anymore. Remember that thing you did 6 months ago and I'm still mad about it? And you have no idea. First, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
No,
and even if you kind of go, oh, yeah, I kind of remember. And why have you been upset about it for 6 months? Why didn't you tell me? Because what happens often is that you've kept doing it because you didn't know. It's really unfair. It's so unfair, Barry. And we think you can just read our minds and you know that we're upset and what we're upset about. And why are you not fixing it? Which makes us even madder at you.
Yep. So you wonder why we wonder what's going on with women? It's like we haven't got a clue. And that's the thing, you know?
So if you have things that you need them to know, that, like my practical jokes, you need to say, this is what I really need, or I really don't need that. And how does that work for you? How does that land for you? And then please tell me your things. If you have things, men have so much less things, but you have things. You typically have more things. But I want to hear too and say, could I do that? Could I do something different? Maybe, yes, no, because that's the discussion to have. But boy, you like them and they're so cute and the sex is great and you've been going out for a while and you're like, could I really say that? Yes, please. And I'll tell you, I've talked about my brother and sister-in-law and the person I go riding with almost 50 years and almost 62 years. They still have stuff come up. They still have stuff come up that they like, oh, I need this now. Could you do that? After all these years, I now need something different. I mean, it never ends. So if you could get good at it in the beginning, when you're first starting to meet somebody, it's going to serve you really well. If you really do have a long relationship that lasts 20, 30 years, we could do that at our age, probably.
Yeah.
To start out saying, what do I need and want? Let me tell you, is that something that works for you or not? And then you tell me. That's all the boundary setting really is.
Yeah. And the thing, as you said, and to just to point it down in print sort of thing, is to say is that boundaries evolve as we do. So in a relationship, yes, you might have a clear set of boundaries that are 5 or 6 things at the beginning of the relationship. Well, a couple of years in, you might discover, oh, well, these 2 don't matter anymore, but these 6 do. So your list changes. And so, as you said before, having conversation ongoing is kind of key. Healthy relationships require check-ins every so often, not too far apart, so that we can have a reset and review. So we can say, you know what, I'm realizing that the boundary I set for this isn't critical, but this one is. And you can't adjust him because, again, if you don't tell your partner, they are not telepathic, they are not mind readers, they do need some support. So if you let them know what works for you, they can work with that ideally. And if they can't, then you know what's going on. But it's a question of having that conversation as and when you need it along the relationship so it evolves.
So you go back to the basic. Is this still working for me? Do I have new boundaries? Do I have new needs? Do I have new things I need you to do or not do? And then tell them, oh, by the way, not, oh my God, you did this thing this week. No, they didn't know they weren't supposed to do it, or they didn't know they were supposed to do it. That's unfair. I discovered I need this new thing. Is that something you could do? Or I need you to not do this thing. Is that something you could not do? So if you keep checking in with yourself and checking in with the other person, boundaries, because it's hard. Well, not having boundaries, I think, is harder. So I'm going to go back to my pick your hard. Pick your hard.
But and also underneath that part as well is that sometimes your boundaries get adjusted because of the way your partner treats you. So how can I say this? Is like if your partner does something that gives you a clue that you need to change one of your boundaries, don't judge them for it because they didn't know. So you said it was like, what happened last Thursday when this happened, I realized I need to set a boundary on that. And don't say, because you did something wrong, because it's not about that, ideally. Then it's like you can choose a new way of being in a relationship with them that they can go, yes, I realize that doesn't work. I get it, I understand it, I go along with that, or I'm out, or maybe renegotiate. But the thing with boundaries, because they are evolving constantly, is things that we learn along the way. It's like you don't want to presume that when you first meet somebody, exactly every boundary you're going to have a need with that person, because it's not going to happen.
I'm going to talk about it again. I teach my couples how to have the state of the relation meeting every week. This is exactly what happens during those meetings. How are we doing with the things? Good. Oh, there's a couple things we need to talk about to maybe alter. So on that note, if you'd like to talk to Barry or I'm going to send you back to my website again, www.theperfectcatch.com. You can schedule a free conversation with me. You can join my mailing list. You can also scroll to the bottom of that page, and all my social media links are right there with little symbols. So easy to get on them. It's Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube. And now I did forget one.
Instagram.
I don't know what it is. Say
Instagram.
Instagram. Thank you very much. And you can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. Oh, in my book, there's a book at the top of my website. It says ebook. You can get my book for free right now. I'm going to have a paid book soon that has dating advice. Would love to get your feedback after you've downloaded it. And how do people get to you, Barry?
Well, as I mentioned earlier at the break, you can get to through my website, which is barryselby.com. Again, on top of the screen is the option to get into a conversation with me. I get on my calendar. At the bottom of the screen is an option to join my email list, where you can just sign up there and get my weekly emails, which includes the replay of the show, other interviews I've been having recently, and also other things I'm offering as well. So definitely get my email list. In the middle of the screen is my quiz, which I created a while back now, which is the Relationship Readiness Assessment. And you can go directly to it if you go to barryselby.com/quiz. Thanks for that link, which basically is going to ask you really pointed, direct questions on how you navigate relationships and what's working, what isn't working, what might be next for you. It also offers the invitation of a conversation with me as well. Secondly, I have another quiz which is not on the homepage, so you have to write the link in directly, which is barryselby.com/self-quiz, which is a self-relationship assessment, because a lot of the stuff I'm discovering more and more starts from the relationship with self, like this conversation. So the self-quiz is going to help you navigate 7 different areas of self-relationship that you can see how good or how bad things are working for you. And from that, you can take some of the next steps. There's a PDF you can download. It has some good advice and an invitation, once again, to have a conversation with me. Also, on my website, there is my book, which is 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. On that page is also a little audio review of my book by 2 AI hosts. I actually did it through an AI software, which is really cracking me up that AI has a good, intelligent review of my book. So you can listen to that on the page. So go to barryselby.com/book. That's the top of the screen. And otherwise on social media, you can find me on all the platforms as my name, Barry Selby, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. And then on Instagram and Threads, I'm the real Barry Selby because my account changed over there. And if you haven't, Christine and I were talking before the show started airing that I've got a bunch of reels I've been creating, and I have a lot of just 90-second nudges, tips, reminders, and invitations. If you want to follow me on social media, they're pretty much all over the place now. You can watch those little bursts of inspiration that I'm offering. So follow me on social media.
It's a great way to put it. And we're always here every Thursday at 4 o'clock Pacific and 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern live. You can watch us live. You can also watch us on TV or your laptop on a bunch of platforms, Roku, and did we decide it was Apple TV too?
I'm not sure that. Definitely YouTube though.
Or YouTube. I did. I watched it. I watched us the other day on TV. It was pretty fun. And then you can take us with you, huh, Barry?
Absolutely, because besides being on the video platforms, we're also on the audio platforms. So we're actually now on podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts. You can listen to any one of our more than 220 plus shows that we've done. So some of the things we've mentioned in this show, there are replays you can listen to from 6 months ago, 2 years ago. We've done so many conversations about this topic in different flavors. So definitely follow us our podcast. The same as on the video. Like it, subscribe, share it with your friends, all those sort of things, because frankly, our message is, if not for you, it's for somebody else. So feel free to share it with people who you think might benefit from it. Don't tell them you're doing it, but, share it with them because you might think it's good for them.
And we really appreciate you spending your time with us and listening to our thoughts and our advice. And the feedback that we're getting is that we're being helpful. And we're really grateful for that.
Absolutely. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.